we saw that these are the three important aspects. These are the three important cases that generally user directly interacts with, but user never works with process or memory in direct manner. It is a virtual representation shown. It is an imagination. It is a fantasy for, or it could be illusion for the user that it is happening. With respect to next aspect that we are supposed to address now is input output. Now, if you see, there are even some funny things that are written by the programmers too while they design an operating system. Now, why I said funny, it was because, like, suppose you restart your machine. Okay, I'm specifically talking about a computer system, not a laptop. Okay, and when you remove your keyboard before your machine starts, and then suddenly you will see an error, keyboard error, press F1 to continue. Now, when keyboard error is there, like this was a funny error that used to be shown there with the earlier implementations for the BIOS. Now they might be displaying you error like keyboard error only, depending upon if modification with your BIOS when you purchase machine. If it is an updated BIOS, then definitely you will see this error. Otherwise, you would be saying like a BIOS error, a keyboard error, then like press F1 to continue. Correct. So like what we used to do is we used to remove the keyboard and we used to attach it again. And that is really important. And that's why like these input output devices are too important. Now we are heavily dependent on the mice or the mouse as well as our touch panels or touch pads of the laptops. What if your touchpad or mouse is not working? How much comfortable are we with respect to using the system ultimately? Correct. Now it would be really difficult in such a case to work with, because we have a complete habit of using these pointing devices or the input devices. Now, when I attach a device, if it could be a kind of, say, for example, a printer, I may not be able to directly take a print. But what happens with Windows kind of operating system, they are plug and play. So plug and play means you attach a device, it would be getting automatically installed. Every time it may not happen. Every time it may not happen. Sometimes that if that driver is not available, driver means what? It is a kind of code. Like for example, like when I sent a message through one of your classmate, like please join this class or please join this team or please join this Moodle course. That was a driver for me. That individual was a driver for me. So who really helped me to interact with you all. Okay, suppose that driver is not known. Suppose I am not sure about who should I contact to, which used to happen before you took the admission, correct? So when you tried finding out information about admission aspects, to whom to contact with, because the people sitting on the telephone may not be the respective members who are knowing everything about that course. Correct. So this is really important that the device driver should be available. So device drivers are written with your operating system. And maybe like if you are interested, if you are really interested, you can think of writing such a driver. Like for example, now you may see that with the Windows current Windows version, for example, Windows 11, or even if we start with Windows XP, Windows XP to Windows 11, everything is plug and play. Right? Even with Ubuntu, sometimes it works on a plug and play basis. But Debian kind of operating system, you like which is a Linux variant, you cannot directly do this. There is no plug and play facility available for few devices. Now you have to specifically install that driver. Now you must have seen rather when we used to purchase a pen drive, that pen drive used to contain something. Correct, contain something like some directory structure would be there. Like if you are or even sometimes a CD used to be there. Correct. So which would permit, which will have a software. When you install that software, then only interaction between your hardware and that operating system would be done. And that's why this I/O aspect is really important. So there are so many devices that you can think of. So few devices are in our control which can be seen directly, and some of them are indirectly installed. Now, whenever you see operating system updates, there are patches too, because through drivers as well, you don't know. Like for example, suppose my machine gets compromised with somebody's trying to hack. Now I do have a camera available in front of me. For example, let me switch on my camera. Now when I switch on my camera, you will see that, okay, I am shown. But like while my picture was shown, have I really activated my camera or somebody's controlling my camera? This would be really a question. And that can happen with majority times these devices. If somebody gets control of your device, then it is uncontrollable. Like it would be difficult to find out who is really controlling. Maybe the security system experts or security experts can help you out on that front. But it is really important that you always use your devices while you are keeping your laptops or desktops or even mobiles. You are not sure like who is controlling your device. So though whatever these external devices are, though in a mobile or in a laptop, you have an internal device attached, correct? Which is a camera, but it is an added facility for the laptops, correct? It may or may not be there available with your laptop, depending upon the model that you choose. But right now, right away, like for example, what are the laptops available in the market, they are providing that facility. Similarly, like when we do talk about these devices, definitely, like if I try to print, how many users are trying to print at the same time if that machine is available on network or printer is available on network? How many people are trying to print it? Then I need to arrange as a code the order of printing. So that's why you might have seen the token system is applied in banks generally. Whenever you have a process of you are standing in a queue for either withdrawing or depositing the money. Okay. There is a token process. So similarly, this token can be assumed as spooling, create a queue. Everyone will see that, okay, when my time comes, I would be given chance to execute. And that's why this also would be important, memory management. Like if your memory manager is important, busy in doing some important task, your code may not get executed. Like for example, if I let us say I clicked it, so in a single unit time, I got to next slide. But suppose I am trying to click 100 number of times, but it is not responding. What can happen? My device is not responding to me because OS on other side is doing some task which is a priority task for it and which is not giving actual attention to my side. What are the user query or what are the user action he or she is trying to execute? Correct. Now, like if you see rather majority of such devices, for example, if I go to this task manager and if I try to show you. Okay, so you try to see what are the different services that are running. For example, when we do talk about this service host, so earlier Windows version used to contain it at SVC host. These are like they are related to Windows by like you can see details of each of them, what exactly they are doing. Each service host. So one of them would be dedicatedly working with network device. So if you have network card installed, then the communication, whatever the communication that is happening from our side, from my side to your side, would be through that particular service. So this dedicated memory area, dedicated storage area needs to be handled by the code written for the device. And it is always a good challenging task rather if you try to write your own device driver. Now, when I say device driver, it because now every device has its own driver available. What if you are trying to connect or if you are trying to create your own, say for example, suppose you have a database system like say Postgres or MySQL or whatever the database system that you are using, Oracle. Now I'm having a language say PQR. Now, if I try to access database elements, of either of the database system that you're using with my language. Will it permit? No, I need to have some mediator between database system and my programming language. So I need to come up with database driver. So in general, like while you learn your Java programming, IMCA peoples, or maybe who did BSc CS, you must have seen that you used or you implemented your projects and you used ODBC or JDBC kind of connectivity. Right, that is a database driver written. So it is not only the thing like only drivers are used for hardware. It can be for software too when the interaction is to be done. Okay, so device drivers would be specifically for hardware devices, and software drivers would be specifically mean for having intercommunication between two components. So when I say two components, it may be same software or it could be different software. Two softwares are trying to communicate with each other. So this is IO management. Nextly, storage. Now you must have seen like that day also I was talking about like in previous session. Like on our devices, you always get indication or notification that okay, your device is going to get full now. Do you want to delete some files? So how exactly this could be done? How the space should be given? Now think of this like if you have a laptop or desktop in front of you, or if you are sitting in a house where some tiles are, imagine that they are representing the addresses. Each tile, each key on the keyboard is representing an address. Now see how exactly we are going to follow it in a sequential manner. We are not going to jump from escape to directly M and then Q, then L, then 4 and so on. Correct. That may be different method. So how exactly the storage would be allocated? So either I may get storage like QWERTY on a keyboard QWERTY. So these continuous locations, 6 locations I might be given as storage. So am I going to get the memory or storage in a contiguous manner or random manner? Now if it is random, then ultimately we don't know. Now think of this like while you try if you plan watching a movie and if you have a group, what exactly you try to do? You try to book tickets in a group. Correct. So if individually each one of you try to book it, what will happen? You cannot assure that you would be getting all the things in same place. Then in such a case, we need to request the others who occupied the seats so that we can sit all together. How the allocation should be done? Now you may have restrictions even with respect to allocation. For example, like what you can see with the railway reservation system, the lower berth is exactly many number of time is not allocated to the people with less than 40 years age. If there is no request, then only in such a case you would be seeing lower berths are allocated. So that is a policy for allocation. So disk allocation policy also would be possibly there, defined by your operating system. Even how the pre-space should be managed. Correct. Now what you did was like when you identified that, for example, let me take Excel spreadsheet for a while to show you how the spreadsheet, how the storage management would be. Suppose these are your contiguous locations, okay, which are given space. So let us do it here. Okay, so this is location number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on. Okay, now this was another program that was given a storage. Okay, so let me border this. Okay, and this much memory area was free. Okay, and this much memory area was given to another program. Now think of this like what happened was this program execution was done. The program completed and the program got terminated. So this will be free. This will be free. Now when the new program is trying to get loaded, whether it will like if it requires 3 locations, whether it will be given here the space or it will be given here the space. Who should decide this policy? Now if you see in between what can happen, suppose this program also gets over. Okay, and you got another program here. Now you will see that the locations allocated for each of the thing, like this was your start address, but what should happen now? Whether should we organize them like this, for example, whether should we arrange them all in such a sequence so that the free space can be used, or you may apply either of the mechanism, correct, to allocate the space. Now, how exactly this should be done? So that's what is one important task for storage management, free space management, storage allocation, even disk scheduling. Now think of your class is there, and like every bench has capacity to hold like two people can sit all together. Now at 9 o'clock the class started. Now suppose you join at 9:04 and you have decided that you always would be occupying the bench where your friend is. So what you will do first, while you enter in the class, you will try to see where exactly your friend is, and you will try to occupy the space. Now if some other person is sitting over there, what you will do? You will try to occupy other place, or you will ask that person to, can you please move out to other place? I want to sit here. But in that case, you are controlling this. But if suppose teacher is controlling, now you go towards back because you came late. This is policy decided how exactly the disk allocation should be done. Correct. Whether it is going to be contiguous manner or whether it is a different location. Now, when you copy a file, say of size 1.2 GB, you assume that this assumption that 1.2 GB is available at one place only. Can we assure that? With the assumption that okay, this whole spreadsheet that is shown to us is a disk representation. Each one block is suppose showing 100 MB space. Example, I'm taking this example. Can we assure that only this much amount of space is already allocated? How to decide this? Or it can happen that only this amount of space might be given. This is free. Now, how we will know that what are the different free locations and what are the occupied locations? So we need to have some flag. Okay, what you do generally while I gave the example of a class, you always try to see where is the empty space available. Now, if it is a class, then you have decided places. But if it is a auditorium, considering size of auditorium to be 1,000 people in an auditorium can occupy the seats. So what you will require that time, or even you think of a theater while you try to occupy the seats. Before the movie starts, even like if lights are up, you would be able to see whether exactly your address is, what are the chair number given to you. But when exactly the lights are all off, at that time somebody is there to guide you. So that manager should be there who would be managing this disk, the storage. And that's a really important part from the storage perspective. Okay, next thing is protection. Can we think of this? For example, if this is the memory area and this memory area is used by operating system, say completely, you cannot enter here. How to decide this that I cannot enter here? Now, if this is my whole memory area available or storage area available, where exactly my operating system code is. Suppose if I go to say, for example, this Windows directory, okay, on C drive. Can you tell me where exactly this is allocated? Where the space is allocated for this directory? Correct. Even let me see if I can show you. Administrative tools, computer management and disk. Now you may see like these are the partitions given to my system. And if you see like on these partitions, so this says it is system resort. This was my disk 1. Okay, major disk where my OS is installed on C drive. Now I cannot write here how exactly this would be controlled. This system result. If I try to delete this, if I try to format this, rather when I said something cannot be tried at home, that's why the indication is given by Sony 10. They say don't try this at home for WWE. Similarly, few things cannot be tried. If you try to do that, you may lose contents of your disk too. Why not try? Suppose in the class only I am trying to this access or maybe format. It is not permitting though here, but think of this. If in the class, if I try getting access to this, now it is not giving me access, but if somebody is having root access, if he or she tries to format, it can happen when I am trying to access the system. Correct. So like we should have like boundaries defined. For example, you may see here each boundary is defined here. Okay, for each partition that I have. Correct. Now, if this is with respect to say storage perspective, how about memory even? Memory also should be controlled in a protected manner. How the protection should be? How the enforcement of rules that are applicable or that are applied at that point of time is to be managed. So what happens is like whenever your memory area is given to the user, so it distinguishes between it. Like for example, let us do this. So if I assume, one minute, let me remove these borders. If I assume that this much memory area is available with me. Okay, suppose I take this. Correct. Suppose these are the blocks that are available where my memory area is defined, which would be talking in detail later. Okay, I'm only giving introduction to you. Suppose this is reserved for your OS and this is available for user. Then this is given a name, specific name here. Okay, this is said to be operating system area, which generally is referred by the term called kernel area. Okay, this would be what? Kernel area. Kernel means what? The controller, the main code of your operating system. And this one is said to be the user area, where all user programs would be loaded in memory. User will have control over here only. If you have to access this control, or have control or gain control of this area, then two mechanisms probably could be like as an user perspective. Either you are a hacker or you are a system programmer, where you would be knowing how exactly I can interact with this kernel area, this space. I may not be directly permitted to do so. Now, sometimes you must have seen, like for example, if I try to say go here and let me see downloads. So if I see this, okay, can I see executable here? I'm not able to. Okay, let us see downloads. Yeah. So hopefully I have solved. Yeah. Suppose if I try to install this. Okay, so you can see that there is an option called run as administrator with Windows. In Linux, what you have to do is you have to log in with root user and then you have to execute the installation process. Now, when we say this, ultimately, we need to be a super user or administrator to execute the commands. Every command cannot be executed as a super user, or every command cannot be executed. Sorry, I should say every command cannot be executed by your simple user. You need to be always an administrator, if at all you want to. If you don't have administrative credentials or root credentials, then you may not be able to do few things which are controlled. And this is user-based protection with respect to your system. That's what we are saying. Distinguish between authorized and unauthorized use. Now what a user can do, what a user cannot do also can be defined. Rather, I will introduce that part while we do talk about security aspect or protection management in towards the end of this course. I will try to show you through databases how exactly it happens. Okay, so these are the kind of services your operating system is supposed to provide. So we started with process, we then talked about memory, then file, then IO, then storage management. Okay, protection management, networking definitely is supported through different network services. Okay, you have a specific in your curriculum, you have a specific course related to these networks. Okay, IMCA probably in 4th semester and MCA people are having in this current semester only. Correct. And command interpreter system would be the one which we would be talking probably in next session. Okay, I will try to introduce you few programs. Okay, how exactly, what exactly happens when we do talk about this particular unit called process management. Fine. Okay, so let us talk about now structures. I should say theoretical perspective. This is kind of introduction to understand only, not to remember probably, because these are the kind of structures which are available earlier. So this was MS-DOS. So MS-DOS used to be fitted into a 1.2 MB floppy diskette. 1.2 MB floppy diskette your OS is in. Even suppose if you have 256 MB of storage space, whole Linux operating system can be installed, which may not contain your GUI, but usable operating system where you can make use of internet too through the text-based user interfaces. Like if possibly you meet AKR sometime, Roy sir in the department, hopefully. So you will see that he tries avoiding making use of GUI. He heavily makes use of the text-based UI, the character user interface. And that was the kind of support provided by this MS-DOS earlier. There were two different, like only three files used to be there. Command.com, which was a shell, the interactive mechanism, command.com. And two things were there, ms.sys and io.sys. One was for MS-DOS device drivers, and other one was for Mint for IO device drivers. So I experienced that mechanism of using this MS-DOS while I was in my bachelor's. Only three files were there, and they were heavily dependent on each other. They are heavily dependent on each other. That's why we are saying like MS-DOS has some structure, its interface and levels of functionality are not well separated. They are connected together every time. So if you want to execute your application program, there is to be one program which to be loaded, always seen in the memory. So you can search for the terminology, which I am adding into comment window now for our chat window rather. You can check it. So I'm adding there. Terminate and stay resident. In general, it is called as TSR. And majority of viruses, what they do, they are like that only. And even few system programs are like, if you see how many systems are running here, how many processors are running here, too many, and how many of them are really using CPU, you will see 0% most of the times. They are loaded in memory, but are they getting executed? Probably no. Now you may see few services are pending, like they are there, they are not doing anything. They are there only. Correct. So they are said to be in memory. They execute it. They terminate themselves, but code of it is always in memory. Terminate and stay resident. And that was the kind of policy applied by MS-DOS for us. So that's why resident system programs. They will get executed. It is not required that always that program should be in memory. Program is there always. Yes. It helps in background. It always helps in the background. Fine. Like how exactly the things are, like before a while I gave you an example of user area and kernel area. So some programs can be run by only kernel, which would be addressing the term probably very soon. So what it does, all kernel programs or all kernel mode programs are the programs need to be executed not by the user but by the system. They run in background, making sure that everything runs smoothly. Now, whenever a function is, suppose a marriage ceremony is, so how many hands are joined together to make that marriage ceremony successful? Too many hands. The food serving peoples, the whole arrangement process team, everyone should be on their toes rather. They are in background. But whenever marriage ceremony is successful, we appreciate efforts from some small set of group. We don't appreciate efforts from the other services. So we always say, okay, my operating system is better because operating system permitted my program to execute smoothly. But actually operating system was not the only thing there. There are so many other programs. For example, what we see here, there are so many other programs which are running in memory. Some of them I might not be using, but they are responsible for my program to get executed successfully, for whatever the communication that I'm having with you all. So Microsoft Team was there, correct? But if I have to execute Microsoft Team, then my audio system should be there. Like for example, let us try to see if I get name of my service audio system. So let us see where exactly, like these programs said to be like these are getting executed and background process are these all are there responsible. So for example, if I talk about this anti-malware service executable, these are a proper antivirus file getting executed every time in the background for my code. Correct? Okay, so what exactly they do? They run in background, making sure that everything runs smoothly. All device drivers are like that only. They are there in memory. When user application requests something, like if I press Control P, then suddenly my kernel wakes up, says, oh, somebody requested for Control P. Suppose I press Control P now. Okay, let me switch this and let me press Control P. Now when I press Control P, you suddenly see that the things are shown. Now if I try to click here, see how much time it took. Very small fraction of time, because this whatever the machine that I'm using is very fast with a high power probably. Correct. So when I click on this, ultimately a signal was sent from my PowerPoint application to the kernel that user is requesting a print command. Can you show me how many printers are? So that's why these printers are shown to you here. Sometimes it may take some time, sometimes it may directly add that list depending upon how many device drivers are appropriately available there. Correct. And then it gives direction to the driver. Okay, now open this, show the list so that user can move further to print. And that's how this execution is done. That execution is to be done on DOS system. The similar thing was captured by majority of operating systems. So we'll be talking about it in memory management routine, something called as real mode and protected mode. Operating systems like DOS were working in real mode environment. Now you can try finding out information about both the terms. I'm adding them again here for you to really search for real mode, which would be addressed later, but you can search what exactly they are, real mode and protected mode. Try to find out information about these two even. Fine. So next model was this monolithic. Okay, so let us go here. It was like this. The structure basically was like this. Some hardware, then system services. That's what I talked about. Something called as interrupts or system calls. There would be some procedures. These are functionality procedures. You can see kernel mode and user mode. User mode, all application program. Which are the application programs? PowerPoint, browser, Microsoft Teams. These are user applications meant for interacting with the system. And to execute your thing, like for example, when I shift to this, when I switch on my camera, now when I switch on my camera, ultimately a signal was sent when I clicked this icon of camera. Okay, can you please direct the camera to get switched on? So if I click on this again, message was sent. Now switch off the camera. Correct. So this is controlled by the application because I am using this application program, Microsoft Teams. I'm sending commands from here, and this command was thrown through or passed through this hurdle, which is called a system services, and an appropriate indication was given to the hardware. Okay, so it sends a signal to the camera. Okay, now yeah, see, user is requesting you to start. Can you please start? And then automatically light would be on or the camera would be on. Correct. So how the interaction would be from the system side? So there would be these programs. Either person is providing a command. For example, suppose if I type in here CMD, this is a command that I am typing. So when I fire this, ultimately this window is shown. This could be a command interface. I can execute through the single clicks my application programs or few libraries I may. These all would be going through the system call interface, and there would be device drivers associated with each one of them. And what my operating system of the type monolithic structure is supposed to do, it will have these services available: process, memory, file, devices. So these whatever are represented here. And there would be trap table, which is called as interrupt table. So next terminology is that you have to find out is IVT. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, sir.
So like if I have these kind of systems available with me. So whether I'm talking about Linux operating system or whether I'm talking about Windows operating system, they are kind of religions for me. And both the religions are supposed to do same process. Only names are different for each of the process, each of the method. Fine. So like we need to really, if you see, if you try to compare, majority of systems, for example, like Windows, Linux are heavily using this monolithic structure. Okay, in next class, we'll be talking about the last approach, even which is followed by majority of versions, probably. Okay, similar to what we saw with monolithic. We'll try to differentiate with both of them too at that time. Fine.